Hello, World Wide Internet people. We are here. We are finally here in the Dresden stream. I'm talking kind of low at the moment. I'm sure I'll get louder as we go. But, just waiting for things to happen for a minute. Let things sink in. Let people show up. That type of thing. I hope everyone's Saturday, everyone's weekend is going well. Mine was going fine until 5 minutes before the stream, so now I'm frazzled, more frazzled than I already was. So here's hoping things improve. Can everybody hear me? I don't even know if there's anybody out there watching. So hopefully you all can hear me. So I guess we should get started. Don't have to actually. Oh, that's weird. I thought somebody was watching for a second. Sorry guys, you know how I am. I realized I had a problem this morning. I've been looking forward to the stream all week. I had so much to say, and then I realized this morning I woke up, I said I have so much to say that I don't know what to say. So I figured that, for now at least, that's why the number keeps seeming to change. Depends on what part of my hairline is on it. I figured that I'd start with some of my favorite quotes, one from each book. But I don't actually have the books available to me. So that's a problem. So what I decided to do, instead of doing like specifically favorite quotes, I'd go on to Goodreads, go to their like quotes from this book page, and pick things more or less at random. Not at random, but hunt down the ones I really enjoyed. So that's what this is going to be. I need to turn my magnifier on so I can see these. All right. So let's start with Stormfront. Stormfront is book 1. And in this one, the wizard Harry Dresden, who lives in Chicago, has to figure out who is ritualistically making people's hearts explode out of their chests without actually bringing any attention from the White Council of Wizards down on his own head, because he murdered somebody with magic, which is a big no-no when he was a teenager in self-defense. And because it was in self-defense, somebody spoke up for him and they didn't lop off his head, which is usually an immediate thing for the Wizard Council. I just realized I have a typo here. Sorry guys, easily distracted. And well, yeah, it's not fixing itself. That's funny. Anyway, that's what this book is kind of about. So I tried to pick quotes that were poignant to the story, poignant to the character's arc, just fit the character. Harry Dresden's really, really funny. He has all these pop culture references all the time. So for his, I react badly to fear. I don't usually have the good sense to run or hide. I just try to smash the thing that is making me afraid. And a lot of us can relate to that, I'm sure. So there's the quote from book 1. I read these books originally out of order, so Stormfront was probably like the 5th book I read. So it was good to finally get to like the grassroots of the franchise. But it's not my favorite. It's a good one. It's good enough. They're all really good. It's just that like 5 or 6 out of the 17 that are out so far, they're just there for me. Like there's 1 or 2 that I genuinely kind of don't like, even though I would still listen to them, I would still read them. There are things in each one that I absolutely love. But so there's something to love in every single book, even the books I don't like. The overall stories of each separate book can vary depending on who you are. So there's that. I keep having to flip back and forth over here. I should stop doing that. Book 2. I'm reading and talking at the same time. That's a bad thing. Book 2 is Full Moon, and in that one, Harry is investigating some more murders with Karen from the Chicago PD, his friend, and they are investigating werewolves. It turns out in the Dresden universe there are 3 kinds of werewolves, and he runs into one of each in the book, which is really interesting. So the quote I chose from that book was, "The evening had obviously been moving along entirely too smoothly. I thought something was wrong." And yeah, again, that's very much Dresden. If something isn't going wrong, then something is wrong. Book 3, Grave Peril. Which one is Grave Peril? See, this is Grave Peril is one of the ones that's not one of my favorites, so it's taking me a second to remember. I believe in this one. No, that's a different one. Which one is Grave Peril? That's hilarious. I'm drawing a total blank. I knew I should have written the summaries down each separately. But the quote from that one is, "For the sake of one soul, for the sake of one loved one, for one life, I called power into my blasting rod, and its tip glowed incandescent white. The way I see it, there's nothing else worth fighting a war for." Yeah, I think Grave Peril may be the one where it talks about his girlfriend, and he meets a major character in the series for later on, Thomas Wraith, who's a white court vampire, which basically means he's a succubus because he's an emotional vampire. There are different houses in the white court of vampires, and they each feed off of different things. One feeds off of fear, one feeds off of despair, one house feeds off of lust. And he ends up going to a masquerade party being held by one of these vampires in the end. And I hope I'm getting this right. It's been so long since I read a few of the books. I don't get them all at once, and when I do get them from the library, they tend to be the exact same ones every time. I don't get the different ones all the time. But he's also dealing with a nightmare, what he calls a nightmare, which is it seems to be a malevolent ghost that is stirring up other ghosts in the area and causing harm and havoc, and it's definitely gunning for him and his friends. And it turns out to be related to a past case, which I assume is in one of the short stories that I probably haven't read, but if it's not, then they just tell it in backstory, but just enough information that way. Oh yay, one person watching, and I'm not actually reading our own change. Hello, welcome to my stream. I'm just going through one of my favorite quotes from each Dresden book to start with, because I was going to start with the Harry Dresden tag, but the people who were going to be helping me come up with questions, because I couldn't find a Harry Dresden tag anywhere on the internet, decided that they just couldn't think of any questions, even though I gave them some templates, because I didn't want to write the questions for myself. I wanted to have questions asked, like when I did my Hellraiser or vampire tags. All right, so book 4, Summer Night. Harry's hired to find out who killed the Knight of the Silver. And my quote from that one of my favorites, is, "Call me paranoid, but there's nothing like a murder attempt in broad daylight to make a man cautious." Those sure as hell make me cautious. In Death Masks, that's the only audiobook I actually have now. And I'm hoping I can get them all on audio eventually, but it's the only one I own, so it's the only one I can listen to at my leisure. I've listened to it like 16 times since Christmas when I got it. He's hired to reclaim a holy relic that was stolen from the Vatican, and on that journey he is met by some fallen angels, and lots of bad juju happens. I don't want to give too many major spoils of the whole thing for people who haven't read the whole series or watched the whole TV series, because I will be talking about that. But I will be talking about major spoilers from the last book that came out. I've reiterated this in my description, in a past stream. Every time I posted my link to this video, I will be spoiling later, but right now I'm just trying to breeze down this before we get to my dream cast. So from Death Masks, we've got Mr. Dresden is a diplomatically challenged individual. He should be in a shelter for the tactless. And I believe that quote is from Marcone. Yeah, I think John Marcone uses that one. He's the big mob boss in Chicago in the Dresden series. And I kind of love him. He's kind of dull because I'm just not into the mob side of things, but as a character, he's awesome. It's just that his role until very recently was like, I love when he shows up. I want to see what's going to happen, but it's never quite enough for me, for the most part, because he does have a lot of cameos more than actual plot relevant stuff that happens. So sometimes it's awesome, and then sometimes it's just there. Blood rights already? Holy crap. Okay. In Blood Rights, Harry gets to investigate something going on a porn set, which is a lot of fun. And there's white court vampires and succubus guys. And he finds out something about his family because he's an orphan. And some family ties come into light. And the quote I chose from that one is, an errand is getting a tank of gas or picking up a gallon of milk or something. It is not getting chased by flying purple pyromaniac gorillas hurling incendiary poo. James Marsters reading that is the best, by the way, I gotta say. It's absolutely the best part of these books. It's not just reading them, it's listening to James Marsters read them. It's fun. Book 7, Deadbeat, that's got necromancers in it. It's got necromancers, and it's so fun, and I don't want to spoil anything else about it for you guys. But it's got an ending I sure as hell didn't suspect. But if you guys like the Dresden Files or think you like the Dresden Files, yeah, you've probably seen references to it. If you've ever looked up like memorabilia or novelty T-shirts or anything like that, it's probably been a reference to something that happens in this book. And the quote I chose from this one was, "It was one of those moments would have had dramatic music if my life were a movie, but instead I got a radio jingle for some kind of a submarine sandwich place. The movie of my life must be really low budget." That's a good quote. I like that one. Book number 8, Proven Guilty. I believe that is the one where Molly Carpenter, the daughter of a friend of Harry's, turns out to have some magical abilities like he does, and she's done some bad stuff, and he has to figure that out, but he also has to stop what's happened and gets to fight fairies and stuff like that in this book. And my quote from that one is, "I don't care whose DNA has recombined with whose. When everything goes to hell, the people who stand by you without flinching, they are your family, and they are the heroes." Again, I mean, it's such a connection to the Harry Dresden character. It's like, he freaking loves his friends. Book number 9, White Knight. White Knight is, I just want to check this. I honestly can't even remember the plot of White Knight right now. I want to say it's one thing, but it could be another thing. And I'm feeling like, uh-oh, what if I'm wrong? Okay, White Knight, Small Favors, that one, isn't it? So which one's White Knight? See, this is the second one where I'm like, I can't remember which plot is which. I hate when I get the books mixed up. The quote I chose for White Knight is, "There is a primal resonance in being touched, in knowing that someone else, someone close to you, wants to be touching you. There is a bone-deep security that goes with the brush of a human hand, a silent, reflex-deep affirmation that someone is near, that someone cares." And there are a lot of quotes like this one all throughout the Dresden books, and oh my god, I always choke up every time I listen to those types of lines. Every time. Like I said, it's bugging me that I can't remember exactly what the plot of that one is. I should damn well be able to remember every single plot in every single book, even if they're not my favorite, because I still like every single book. But for some reason, I'm drawing a blank. maybe I'm just stressing myself about it too much. Book 10, Small Favor, is where the books go from some real high points and then some real low points mixed in every single book so that they're adequate and either good or bad depending on your personal taste. It's just going from good to better to holy fucking hell awesome. And I just lost what I was looking at. Okay, Small Favor's quote is, "Think of every fairy tale villainess you've ever heard of. Think of the wicked witches, the evil queens, the mad enchantresses. Think of the alluring sirens, the hungry ogresses, the savage she-beasts. Think of them and remember that somewhere, sometime, they've all been real." And honestly, I thought I had more of the quote in there because I was pretty sure that quote was connected to Mab, the Queen of the Winter Fairy Court. But maybe I'm just mixing it up with another quote because I was trying to find the one that directly talks about, holy shit, this bitch is evil and she's real. This is book 11, Turncoat. That's where the books become freaking excellent. Morgan, who's a warden of the White Council, in other words, a cop of the White Council, is asking Harry for help with something. And given that he's always been a bit of an antagonist, not a villain, but an antagonist to Harry, it's been an interesting ride. So for that to happen, yeah, that's really weird. And the quote for this one, and this is my favorite quote, although it does get kind of repeated in Skin Game. I know that because I'm currently listening to Skin Game again. Is, "As far as the council is concerned, the U.S. wardens are a bunch of mushrooms. Eh? Kept in the dark and fed on bullshit." So, that's probably one of the only weaknesses I can see in Butcher's writing of the Dresden Files. There are things he'll say a lot, which, if it's something really embedded in the character, like in the character of Harry, especially since it's told from his point of view, it makes sense for certain things to come up a lot. But Jim Butcher brings up like the touch thing a lot, or some jokes will be semi-repeated, recycled a little bit. And that's just a hazard of the job. I'm not knocking him for anything. It's just something I happen to have noticed. But my quote from Change, yeah, okay. I already read the quote from that one. Okay, Changes. Changes is really good because Harry finds out that he's a daddy and he's got to save his little girl. That's all I'm telling you. Because I'm hoping you'll forget most of this. If you guys haven't read these books yet, I don't know what the hell you're doing here. But my quote that I chose is, "They say you can know a man by his enemies, Dresden." He smiled and laughter lurked beneath his next words, never quite surfacing. "You defy beings that should cow you into silence. You resist forces that are inevitable for no more reason than that you believe they should be resisted. You bow your head to neither demons nor angels, and you put yourself in harm's way to defend those who cannot defend themselves." He nodded slowly. "I think I like you." If I'm remembering Changes correctly, and I have listened to this is one of the ones I've listened to the most. But if I'm remembering it correctly, then that is said by Vateron, Donald Vateron, who is the head of Monarch Securities. It's one of the characters that's mentioned a few times in the series, but you never really meet him up until this point. And he becomes such a big character later, but I'm going to try not to spoil that too much, at least not until I get into my cast wish listing, because then I have to talk about the thing. I have to talk about it, because otherwise it won't make no damn sense why I would choose who I chose. Book 13, Ghost Story. It's another little dip, but it's still like in the awesome spectrum. And somebody is a ghost, and they're trying to get help solving their own murder. Geez, how do I dance on spoilers for that one? "Oh," the girl said, shaking her head. "Don't be so simple. People adore monsters. They fill their songs and stories with them. They define themselves in relation to them. You know what a monster is, young shade? Power. Power and choice. Monsters make choices. Monsters shape the world. Monsters force us to become stronger, smarter, and better. They sift the weak from the strong and provide a forge for the stealing of souls. Even as we curse monsters, we admire them, seek to become them in some ways. Her eyes became distant. There are far, far worse things to be than a monster. That's a creepy scene in the book, and it's just, I love that. But it makes so much sense, but it's just so creepy. Okay, book number 14, Cold Days. A good book, not my favorite, but a good book. Yeah, it would be somewhere toward the. If this is my favorite book and this is my least favorite book, it's somewhere here, like just, oh no, somewhere right here, right just above the middle, so somewhere toward the lesser books. But yeah, it's still a good book. Like I said, all of them are good in their own way. Cold Days. Harry has to kill somebody on command. I'm leaving it at that for now. And my quote is, her flawless pale skin was also spangled with gemstones. I don't know how they'd been attached, but they clung to her and sent little flashes of color glittering around the cavern when she moved. They were concentrated most densely around her. Well, she'd been bedazzled. Hilarious quote. I had to pick a couple of ones I found the funniest. Unfortunately, there were quotes before this one. I gotta talk about it because I couldn't find it on Goodreads and I wanted to get it verbatim. Since I couldn't, I'll talk about it now. I believe it was also in Changes. The first time I experienced this book, I was physically reading the book. I wasn't listening to it. Little fairies in the city for like favors in return and stuff. And there's a line that's something like that little fairy hit that pizza box like a white, yeah, he slammed into that pizza box like a great white on a seal or something like that. I mean, it's nowhere near as funny when I'm trying to read it to you, just like these quotes out of context. You might be able to appreciate what I'm reading, but you can't appreciate them fully because you're not reading the whole story. But I literally had to drop the book. I was laughing so hard after that one. So Jim Butcher's a funny ass fucking guy. And Jim, and the way that James Marsters reads it makes it even more hilarious. For the most part. When he's not scaring the living shit out of me, or making me bawl my eyes out, or making me go, God, dude, I know that this whole book is intense, so your voice can't possibly be intense the whole way through because you would just die of exhaustion trying to pull that off. But just right here, can you put a little more intensity right here, please? But that's the last book complete specifically because James Marsden is the fucking king. I wish you could read everything I ever had on audiobook. Well, I mean, there are other people. Jim Dale's good. Killing was good. Moving back to Dresden Files now. Book number 15, Skin Game. All I'm going to say is in this one, we get to meet Hades, and holy shit, he's like my favorite fucking character to ever just kind of show up and then fuck off. I really hope he comes back. But this is back and forth. So I'm sorry, I'm not a character actor. I'm not a narrator. I will not be able to do what James Marsters does. So this is a paragraph. All right. I actually just listened to this morning because it's just a book I'm currently listening to. That's arrogance, Harry, he said gently. On a level so deep you don't even realize it exists. And do you know why it's there? No, I asked. He smiled again. Because you have set a higher standard for yourself. You think that because you are more powerful than others, you have to do more with it. To whom much is given, much is required, I said without looking up. He barked out a short laugh. For someone who repeatedly tells me he has no faith you have a surprising capacity to quote scripture. And that's just my point. I eyed him. What? You wouldn't be twisting yourself into knots like this, Harry, if you didn't care. So? Monsters don't care, Michael said. The damned don't care, Harry. The only way to go beyond redemption is to choose to take yourself there. The only way to do it is to stop caring. And that's not my favorite piece, but again, when I made up this list, I didn't have the book in front of me. I still don't have the book in front of me, and I hadn't listened to that part until this morning, and didn't for me to stop and try to put it down verbatim. But at the beginning of that scene, it's one of the James Marsters, "You're gonna make me cry" moments, because uh, Harry approaches the character that's talking to him, and he's like, I need help. I think I'm lost." And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna cry. I'm just going to cry." Oh, holy crap! I've got 4 quotes for this one apparently. Okay, here's another quote. "For a second, I wanted very badly to know a spell that would let me melt through the floor in a quivering puddle. Please don't kill me." Yeah, another completely out of context, not funny, but holy shit, is it funny when you read the book. Another one, this is another little back and forth, but hopefully this one will be funny regardless of lack of context. "I know you've been aching to have your hands on my staff," I said to Asher as Nicodemus examined the altar for himself. I held out my hand. "But I'd rather be the one fondling my tool. Wizards are weird like that." "Wow," she said and flashed me a grin. Her face flushed, excited. "You left me nowhere to go with that one. I have nothing to add." Sometimes Harry sticks his own foot in his mouth, but sometimes he beats people to the punch for them so that he looks smart. Peace talks, another lull for me. Still would be above the average in the list, but just a little dip for me. It doesn't have a lot of those boom moments. Like, it has the really powerful moments, but they're like pages long. There's no like boom quotes. Like you saw in the last couple. I actually had to do a couple back and forth to find the ones I really liked. So I picked one that was just here. Free advice for you. Oh wait, some free advice for you. Never fight an old man. They've been there, done that, written the book, made it starred in the movie, designed the t-shirt, and they've got no ego at all about how the fight gets won. Love that one. Peace talks is exactly what it sounds like. Harry is taking part in some truce peace talks. We'll just leave it at that. And for Battleground, Harry is trying to save Chicago from a Titan, and that is set up in peace talks. So let me leave it at that. But my favorite piece, and this is a little long-winded from that book, is "I am Harry, son of Malcolm," I shouted back. "I have battled dark sorcerers and black knights. I have fought men and beasts in numbers too great for counting, invaded the heart of winter, confronted necromancers and the living dead, vampires and ghouls and demons in their hordes endless. I have matched wits with the 6 queens of fairy and prevailed, and thwarted the combined will of the White Council. When they came for my child, I smote the red court of vampires and laid them in ruin for all the world to see. I am Harry, son of Malcolm, and I have entered the vault of Tartarus and stolen its treasures beneath the gaze of Hades himself, and I'm about to add giant slating to my resume." So there's my favorite quotes from all the books. I was hoping somebody would say something in the chat room by now, but I guess that's just not going to happen today, at least not currently. I did start pretty early, although I usually do start by now, I think. Well, back when I used to do this regularly before my computer first shit the bed, before I got the replacement. So, I'd like to now talk about my dream cast. And I don't have alternates written down, but if I think of alternate possibilities, I will mention them. Although I should say I actually just recently rewatched the Dresden Files TV series that came out on SyFy, starring Paul Blackthorne and Terrence Mann. And oh crap, I forgot her name. There are changes. There are changes like I haven't made, or I haven't made in my Dreamcast list, like picking somebody of a different ethnicity and stuff like that. The only one that actually I think that I personally casted for what I initially saw in my head, with the exception of one character. Because no matter how many times I was told she was a white blonde chick, I kept seeing black woman in my head. Same thing with the oldest child of that person. I was like, for some reason, I just saw 2 black people in my head. No idea why. Maybe it was their general attitude at the beginning of the series, and it just came across as like the actor I saw in my head who could play that person happened to be black. I don't know. But So now that I finally can remember, hey, this is supposed to be a white person. Do you still want a white person playing? I have white actors playing them, but I didn't do it as a rule that they have to look like their counterpart. I went, okay, do they look like their counterpart first? No? Okay, well, then who can I think of that can fit this role? Or does it matter at all? Just who the fuck do I think can play this role? So there are a couple of changes in there, but I'm the type of person where I will often look for the person that looks like them before I try and figure out who would act the role. In the Dresden TV series, Murphy happens to be played by a Latina woman. Fine by me. She's a little light, blonde-haired late Irish girl in the books. Don't care. She can be played by a Latina lady, and they had to change the name anyway because there was actually a Karen Murphy in the Chicago PD at the time of filming the series, so they didn't want to have a conflict there. So they changed her name to Constanza, I think. Constanza Murphy? Maybe? Constanza Murphy? I think that's right. I think that, they call her, she's credited as Connie, but I remember Harry actually said what her full name was in one episode. Now that I've gotten that long-winded, I probably sound racist rant out of the way, and I'm not trying to. I'm going to give you my top picks. I don't know if I should go from Harry first or last. I'll go from top to bottom. Harry's the first one I decided to cast. So my first pick for Harry Blackstone Copperfield in Dresden was Josh Holloway, the guy who played Sawyer, or Ford, as he's also known. I think it's James Ford in Lost. He's got that dry, sarcastic wit. He's certainly not tall, but one of my problems with seeing Harry in my head is how tall he is. Who the hell is tall enough that's a good actor to play Harry Dresden other than Jeff Goldblum, who also would play a great Harry Dresden, but he wouldn't be my personal pick. So I went with Josh Holloway. There's just something about Jeff Goldblum's choice, stuttering affect that I don't particularly want to see in Harry. Like, Harry can get flustered and stutter and stammer, but not as easily as Jeff Goldblum does when he's confident. So, for Bob the Skull, and even though Bob the Skull is primarily a voice, with one exception that I can think of in the books, I decided to go Gary Oldman, because Gary Oldman does very well as a voice, and God, he can be funny when he wants to be. For Molly Carpenter, I chose randomly. For Karen and Molly, I had a really hard time. Molly Carpenter is, because I barely mentioned her in the books themselves, when I was going over the quotes, Molly Carpenter is Harry Dresden's apprentice. And I picked Chloe Grace Moretz. She's she can play younger than she is, and she could not age too much, as, if the Dresden cinematic universe were a thing. She would still roughly the right age for a long time. And to go with that, I also have Kirsten Dunst cast as Karen Murphy, because I would love to see Kirsten Dunst play a genuine badass who can also be vulnerable and feminine and sweet and just freaking hilarious, because she can do all those things. She can do all those things. I have absolute faith in her. So yeah, I would pick Kirsten Dunst. She's a little older now. She's probably around my age, maybe a little bit younger, a little bit older. I'm not sure. But she could play a little younger and play into a little older. For my choice for Thomas Wraith, the White Court Vampire, I decided to go for Luke Evans, because Luke Evans is hot enough to play an Incubus, quite frankly. I decided to cast, not against type, but against my personal preferences, for Waldo Butters, who is an ME in the, oh god, I'm drawing blanks on words, and this sucks. He's a medical examiner. And I decided, you know what? He's already starting to come back into his own and come back into film as a star again. let's cast Shia LaBeouf, because why the fuck not? He could do it. That's the only thing I got for you. He could do it. Charity Carpenter, Molly's mother. This is one of the people that for some ungodly reason it took 4 or 5 books reading about this character to realize, wait a second, she's white. Or at least she's supposed to be in the books. I kept seeing like, oh, Angela Bassett could play her. I still believe Angela Bassett could play her if we chose to cast against the type she's supposed to be in the book. But since I have another actress who's about the right age now, who could definitely play Charity Carpenter that happens to fit the physical description given in the book, I decided to pick Charlize Theron. I fucking love Charlize, and I cannot get enough of her. Auntie Sharon, when did you show up? I had my chat room slightly blocked. It is good to see you here. I am rambling about actors I would love to play these characters. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask them. I will shrink my screen down a little bit so that way I can hopefully actually notice when people say things. I also have my magnifier on, which is making it really hard to see the whole screen. But if I don't do that, I can't see my cast list that I have typed up. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me all right? Since somebody's finally talking, I might as well ask. Awesome, thank you. All right, where did I leave off? Hang on, I got stupid things popping up on my word processor here. Michael Carpenter, Charity's husband and Molly's dad. I picked James Remar. I love James Remar in Dexter and The Vampire Diaries. I know he's in a lot of pure flicks, and I don't jive for that type of thing, but I think he's a damn good actor. So, James Remar as Michael Carpenter. He seems to fit the description, and he would just do well. For a side character named Jared Kincaid, who is like a mercenary. I picked slightly against type, maybe. I can't remember his exact description in the books, but I went Jason Momoa. Jason, at least I hope the name is right. I think it's Jason. I honestly should have looked it up and double checked it, but I'm pretty freaking sure it's Jason Momoa. He's in Game of Thrones. People can crucify me down in the comments if they please if I got that wrong. As Gentleman Johnny Marcone, the Chicago mob boss, I decided on Mads Mikkelsen because nobody else on the fucking planet should ever play John Marcone. Maybe back in the 80s I could have said, hey, Michael Douglas has got to play this character. But or Richard Gere's got to play this character. But no, it's got to be fucking Mads Mikkelsen. We're about to go into Braveheart territory with my next 2 castings. Donald Morgan, Warden of the White Council, who's a pain in Harry's ass for a majority of the first half of the series. I chose Brian Cox. This Brian Cox is awesome as an actor, and he can be funny, although Morgan really isn't funny, and he can kick ass. Staying with that, I decided that the guy who plays Don Arvaderon, the head of Monarch Securities, who is also, and this is where the spoilers start to come in, who is also the god Odin, who is also Kris Kringle of Santa Claus fame, should be played by Brendan Gleeson. Because, yeah, he just should be. As far as I'm concerned, why not? I mean, I don't have, like, good excuses as to why some of these people should be it. I think it's just a role that I firmly believe he can play, and I would love to see him do it. That's the best they got. Kind of just a miscellaneous casting I got here. I got Laura Wraith, who is basically a succubus. I was trying to think of who the hell could play her, and just Mila Kunis popped in my head. I don't even particularly know or like Mila Kunis, but she's gorgeous. I know a lot of people have thoughts for her. I know she can act if she's given the right freaking roles and a good enough script versus the shit she often gets. So, and it's a minor enough character where, hey, if she fails to pull it off, they could always recast her. But I believe she could. As Carlos Ramirez, now I actually don't know, or at least don't recognize Latino actors very well. There are a few I do know. Actually, one of them is down in the list. But I mean in terms of specifically actors, not actresses, but actors. Because some of them, it's like, well, Ramirez is definitely a Latino character. So I was scrounging the internet, like, who do I know that I can judge? And I couldn't find any that I knew that I could judge that I liked or that I thought should play the role. Like, some of them are good actors, and I do know some. I didn't think they should play this role. They were too old, too young, whatever the case was. So I actually had to scour the internet, and I came across Alejandro Eddy. And I actually know Alejandro Eddy, but as a voice talent versus as an actor, he was the voice talent for Manny in the video game The Last of Us 2. And at least based on the voice and based on the model that they had of Manny in the game, I'm assuming it's at least close to what Alejandro actually looks like. He looks kind of like Ramirez, maybe a little bit too grown up, a little too masculine, but whatever, I can live with that. But he's got the personality now. I mean, the way he can play Manny, he can definitely play Carlos. So I decided I liked that one. For Susan Rodriguez, I decided to go with Salma Hayek. Again, just kind of a random choice, but I decided I liked it. For Joseph Listens to Wind, for Injun Joe, I decided to go with Graham Greene because I really like Graham in the few things I remember seeing him in. I did have to look up his filmography because, again, I was looking up real Native American actors. How many have I heard of? How many do I think could actually do the role? A lot of the ones I've actually heard of had passed away. So it's like, okay, well, who's still alive that could at least do the role? And Graham Greene is one of them. I had to go with somebody really oddball to cast as the Merlin, Arthur Langtree. He is the leader of the Wizards White Council. And I decided Sam Neill. I don't have any particular reason. I was just like, hey, he's played a villain, he's played a funny guy, he's played a romantic, he's played everything. He can do this. I went really the fuck out there for Ebenezer McCoy, but again, I just sincerely believe that he can do it. I decided that Ebenezer McCoy could be played by Tommy Lee Jones. Watching him kick ass as the Black Staff McCoy would just be so delicious. There's a random wizard that just shows up in one book named Samuel Peabody, and now this actor has passed away. But the only person that's ever been on my head when I've read the part of Samuel Peabody in the book was Brad Sullivan. And Brad Sullivan played Father Thomas in Sister Act 2. Kind of a grumpier priest. I loved him so much, and that's what I see every single time I'm reading Peabody. It's like that. Brad Sullivan. Now we get into like Mother Winter and Mother Summer. They could be played by twins, but if they weren't going to be played by twins with like severely different makeups, I would say Tilda Swinton should play Mother Winter and Judi Dench should play Mother Summer. Either that or they could both play both roles, or one of them can play both roles. Because we all know they all kick ass, and Tilda Swinton's not really that old, but I've seen her in some crazy ass makeups, and I know she can do some whacked out shit with her voice. My original pick has also passed away, but she played Haggis in the movie Pumpkinhead. But I just decided, I'm like, that's probably, she basically is Mother Winter. Like, the personification of Mother Winter is, I understand from the books, basically is Haggis from Pumpkinhead. So it's like that isn't stretching the talons very much. So maybe I should try and think of somebody who's alive. Queen Mab is actually quite a major character in the books, and I dearly love the Scream Queen, Catherine Isabella. She's also in the TV show Hannibal, and gosh, she can play a cold, just stoic, hardcore bitch, and it's kind of what Mab is, and Catherine Isabella could pull it off so beautifully. Now, as her daughter, Maeve, the Lady of the Winter Court, I was thinking Nina Dobrev, her and Catherine Isabel look similar. They're actually probably similar ages, but that doesn't matter so much when it comes to the fairies. And Nina Dobrev was in the Vampire Diaries. She played Elena, the main female character for the majority of the series. And I would love to see her play this Nina Dobrev play a slightly wackier, more cold-blooded character than the evil version of Elena that was in the Vampire Diaries. So Nina should play that character. For Leah Nancy, I thought maybe Megan Fox, who's Leah is supposed to be hot, and she can play attitude and creepy, and I believe Megan can do that. I don't know a lot about Megan Fox, but I'd love to see her stretch because I know she hasn't been given the role she fucking deserves. Now for Nicodemus Archleon, my original choice would have been somebody that passed away quite a while ago, Nicole Williamson. I think he was just absolutely made for that role, but sadly he's been passed away for like 15 years now. So I said, who else do I think could possibly play this role that looks like I see him in my head? And I picked Hector Elizondo. He was in Pretty Woman and The Princess Diaries. I know I've seen him in other things, but those are the only things I can name off the top of my head. And I freaking love Hector. He's such a warm guy in these movies, and he has such a sense of humor. But I believe he could do like shit your pants, terrifying and serious and dry wit. So there's my pick. Hector, gotta play Nicodemus. It's time. Fairfax is a dragon character, and he shows up in human form like 2 or 3 times in the series. I think this last book that came out was his 3rd appearance. So I was trying to figure out who could play Fairfax, and I gotta say, this is. My mom said can't see myself slamming the door. Fairfax. Sorry, too much noise going on. I gotta wait a second. Seriously, all that slamming just for her to move back inside? Hang on, guys. Okay, apparently she was having some little problems with the door latching. I don't know if you could hear any of that, but it was kind of loud and very, very distracting. Not her fault, just it was what it was. So it'll come. Yeah, it'll come. And now I screwed up my whole screen. Give me another second here. You down here. Okay. Fairfax. I was talking about the dragon character. I was going to say this could be just because my husband and I are also writing an urban fantasy story, and I created a dragon character. So it could be the guy I see in my head for that specific dragon character is bleeding over into this dragon character that can like take a human form. It's just fantasy things have elements in common, and ours just happens to have something like that. But because I see Ben Kingsley playing my dragon character, I can definitely see him playing Fairfax, and I would love to see that. I love Ben Kingsley to bits, I really do. There is a somewhat more minor character named Father Anthony Forthill, and I've always kind of seen a bespectacled Leslie Nielsen in that role. Now, I know Leslie Nielsen is known today as a comedian, but he didn't start off as a comedian. He played a lot of villains, and Father Forthill is definitely not a villain by any stretch of the words. Not as far as I know in the series, anyway. Maybe Jim Butcher will throw that loop in there someday. I hope not. I'd have to probably kill him or something. I don't know, because that would break my heart. But I know Leslie Nielsen has a lot more range than people actually remember him having. He's been a leading romantic. He's been a romantic lead. He's been a villain. He's been the comedic butt of everybody's jokes. So I know he can play Father Forthill, and he's not. He's a significant character when he shows up, but he's not like an overall significant character. But he was one of my favorites for a while. Mortimer Lindquist. He is what is the word that is used? An ectomancer. In other words, he's basically a medium. He can talk to spirits of the dead. He's a very minor character, but I see Paul Giamatti playing him. Like I was really struggling with this one too, because I'm like, Hollywood doesn't really like short and quote unquote fat people. I'm not trying to body shame people, but Mortimer is definitely one of those shorter, bigger people described in the book. So I was struggling with that, and Paul Giamatti was the only person that was coming to mind. I'm like, I know there are others out there, some of them from TV, but I didn't really want to go, oh, I know this guy from this one role, maybe I should grab him. Paul Giamatti, I at least know, has some range, so that's why I chose him. I love him in Private Parts and The Negotiator, so I think he could do that. McAnally, who's a bartender that is, I still don't know what the fuck he is. I don't think most readers know what he is. There are a lot of theories going around, but he's not exactly human. But he's a very quiet, stoic character. He's a man of extremely few words. I think he's said maybe like 40 words through 17 books, because he's in almost every single book for at least a scene, and usually he just will like nod and say somebody's name, and that's the most you get. So Terry O'Quinn, again from Lost, he played John Locke. I freaking love Terry O'Quinn, and I know he's got better range than that, but that's what that looks like to me. It looks like Terry O'Quinn, so I think he should play the role. Almost done. No, not almost done. Like two. All right. Martin, another minor character, but he's often described as Dino. Dino, it's good to see you. How you doing, man? I haven't heard from you in forever. I haven't been able to see you in a stream, like live or anything. And do you know anything about the topic I'm going on about right now? The Dresden Files, the books by Jim Butcher. Give my voice a rest while I'm waiting. I'm talking for like a while. Ooh, there are apparently 3 people here. That's awesome. Still go live at 10 on Tuesdays. All right. Yeah, I know you do. It's just that I don't know, the time you guys go live, I'm usually just settling down and trying to go to sleep, because I gotta get up at 5:30 in the morning with my kids some days. Well, now it's more like 6:30, but still, like, I gotta turn my brain off. And if I start with you guys at 9 o'clock my time, I'll never get up at 6:30. I will not be functioning. Anyway, I'm talking about my Dreamcast for the Dresden Files, if they actually ever did make it for like a cinematic universe. By the way, there is talks of it being in pre-production with Jim Butcher right now to be making it, but who knows where that will come from, because it's in such early stages. You might as well call it development hell right now, which really bites. It really does. And why am I doing this? Hang on a second. I am struggling again. Okay. Slow-mo is on for chat. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's my fault. Sorry. I did put it on hoping. I had a good turnout my last stream, and I didn't expect to get as many this time, but I was like, since it takes a while for me to see things, I did put it on slow-mo. I wonder if there's a way I can edit that here. Just put it on top of. No, okay, I don't know how to change that now, but next time we'll make sure not to turn it on. Alrighty, gotta get that thing to pop up again. It's you, randomness. Anyway, Martin is a character that's often described as being very forgettable. Like, he does not stand out in a crowd. He's very camouflage. Yeah, my last laptop shit the bed about 4 months ago, so I couldn't do absolutely anything YouTube related other than watching and commenting on other people's videos. So I just bought this new one last week. So I'm trying to make up for lost time. This is like my 3rd stream a week. I'll probably go back to the monthlies in no time. Anyway, Martin, the forgettable guy that can blend in. I was like, well, he's not exactly blend-in material, but I know he can do it. Edward Norton. Edward Norton should play this really minor, invisible, but not invisible character. For Shiro, oh god, I don't even know if I can say this name properly. I was trying to be ethnically accurate to the character when I did the casting, and I had to do a lot of searching because again, I don't know the names of Asian actors. I just don't, other than Pat Morito, Morioto. Oh god, I can't even pronounce that one. Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid. But god, I loved him. But no, I didn't pick him for reasons other than him being dead. But for one thing, and no, he would have been the right ethnicity actually. Shiro is a Knight of the Cross. There are Knights of the Cross in this series, and he's only in one book, sadly. But I decided that Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa from Memoirs of a Geisha should try and play Shiro. I believe he could do it. I don't know a lot of the stuff he's in. I don't know him very well, but I do believe he could do it. Now, here's where I branched out crazy. The role of Tutu, the character of Tutu, he's a little dewdrop fairy. And he starts out about this big, and then he grows to about this big for some reason throughout the course of the series. And he's just a little fairy, kind of like a dewdrop fairy, a mischievous little sprite type character. Does errands for Harry and stuff like that in the books. He has purple dandelion fluff hair. That's all he's really described as. I'm assuming he's also supposed to be white, but who the hell cares? For some reason, I had a certain type in my head, and it wasn't a white person. I don't know why, but I couldn't find anyone that fit that description very well. So I did a random search, came across a name of somebody that happened to be of that heritage, and I'm like, okay, but can they pull off Tutu? So I had to look up a few clips of that person. And based on his work on the Big Bang Theory, which I haven't actually watched, but did watch a few clips, Kunal Nayar, I hope I'm saying that right, should definitely play Tutu. Now, he doesn't have to play Tutu. It could still be somebody of any other race. Don't care. Could be white, could be black. I don't care. But he just felt right when I found him. He felt right for the role. Uriel, who is an angel of God, and he's kind of God's black ops guy, I guess you could say. Again, a character that's, I'm pretty sure, supposed to be white. I don't freaking care, but this time I very deliberately went against that because I was like, no, I know who should play this. And I decided it should be Charles Michael Davis, or Davies, from the originals. Now, I know him from the originals, and he was also in the holiday movie I saw, like, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before on TV, which I think it was same time next year or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the title was. I should have saved it on my DVR. I wanted to watch it this year and it wasn't on. But I really love him. He's got such a warmth to him, and he can be a total badass. So to see him play somebody like Marcel Gerard in the originals, who is a really badass vampire but has a whole lot of heart, it's like, why wouldn't he be able to play, God's assassin, God's spy guy, Yeah, that would work for me. Two more characters, guys. Sanya, who's another Knight of the Cross, he is an African-American Russian man. So this is a guy with issues, a black man growing up in a place that's 99 point onward white. He had some issues growing up, and I was like, who the hell should play Sanya? Sanya's got such heart and soul, and he's also badass, but in a way that feels more believable, even though there's nothing believable about the shit he pulls off sometimes in books. I figured Idris Elba. Again, I don't know a lot about Idris Elba, but at least I've seen him and stuff. Like, that's more than I can say for like 2 or 3 of the other names I ended up picking. Like, I have seen some of the other stuff that all these people have been in, but I wouldn't be able to remember if they're this guy or that guy. But either way, it works. I mean, just based on what I see in my head. And the last casting choice I had picked for my dream cast, I had to throw James Marsters in there somewhere because he reads the audiobook. If they ever did the animated series, or if I couldn't have Josh Holloway playing Harry or Bob or any other of the characters in the series, James Marsters could play Goodman Gray. And I don't want to get into his whole thing because it is literally a whole thing. But he's basically another. I just had the word a few minutes ago. I was using it for another character. Same as Kincaid. What do you call? They used to call them sellswords. Mercenary. Mercenary. He is a mercenary. He gets paid to do odd jobs, and he doesn't always get paid to kill people, as the book proves, but he is a mercenary, and he is not a major character yet, but Jim Butcher has said he's interested that when he's done with the main Dresden series, which should be in like the next 5 or 6 books or so, something like that, he would like to write an offshoot series that is primarily Goodman Gray's story, and I can't wait to see that. But I can't have the Dresden Files without my James Marsters because he's in my heart now. That's all there is to it. The man's in my heart. I got to see him as somebody. And if I don't really, really, truly see him just playing a main character, I need to see him as Goodman Gray because that's fucking perfect. And yeah, that's probably pretty much it for that. For the list. What should I talk about now? Should I talk about the TV series? I don't have a lot to say on that, but I have some things I could say on it. Or should I start my rant about the last book? What do you think? Nobody's got an opinion right now. All right, well, I guess I will talk about the TV series a little bit. It only had 12 episodes for one season. Came out and aired out of order from how it was filmed. Like the episode Stormfront, which is loosely based on the first book in the series, was like the 9th episode that actually came out, but it was meant to be the first episode in the series. And you can tell when things are out of order because Harry has a girlfriend, Harry doesn't have a girlfriend, Harry's on the outs with this girlfriend, Harry's on the ins with this girlfriend. That type of bullshit happens a lot. They make a lot of small references to the series, like in an episode that actually deals with werewolves, they mention Kirby's bar, and Kirby is a werewolf that appears multiple times in the Dresden series. Things like that. Susan Rodriguez is, I mean, I didn't look up the race of the woman who plays her, but she looks white to me. So I was like, okay. Weird to not change the name if you have a really Spanish name, but I mean, if she's Latino and I don't know it, I mean, people get shit for assuming your background all the time nowadays, so I'm not going to assume anything. But excuse me. I will say, if in my eyesight anybody can look white, anybody can look red, I don't freaking know. But I thought that was interesting and odd. I mean, they took a Latino character and cast a white woman. They took a white woman and cast a Latino character. They took a white man and they cast a black character. I don't care. Diversity is a good thing. I just thought it was interesting at the time because they didn't make a name change for one of them. kind that chose you to drop on in the first place. That's the only place where I just thought it was weird interesting, you know? Special effects are horrible. Most of the script is pretty bad. The storylines are very interesting. The emotional and acting is pretty good, but not always great. Terrence freaking Mann from Broadway stardom. He was in the original American cast of Les Miserables, Cats, Beauty and the Beast, and The Scarlet Pimpernel, probably among others. Plays Bob, not Bob the Skull, but oh God, I couldn't even pronounce his name if I tried, so I won't try. But basically, the story's equivalent of Bob the Skull, and he is somebody that does live in a skull. He is a ghost. He is something very different in the books. He is a spirit of intellect. In other words, never was human, just is a thing of knowledge, and stays in a skull where he's safe from certain kinds of, mortal harm, you could say. What else? I know I was catching other things today. I think Ivy, the archive, who in the books is basically the living vessel that contains all human history knowledge. Like anything that's ever been written down ever is inside of her. So every single time something gets written down on paper or anywhere, it shows up in her mind, and this gets passed down through her lineage. I think she's represented in the first episode that actually aired. She's not called Ivy, but somebody does basically go into a trance and go into an actual archive that's someplace physically to get information. So I think she's supposed to be represented in that character. I thought I heard the Blue Beetle, which is Harry's car through most of the series, is visually referenced, although Harry never once drives it. It's just seen up in a garage, being worked on, and it looks like a piece of shit blue, Beetle Volkswagen bug. It's shown as a reference, but Harry drives a red Jeep in the series. Don't know why they decided to just throw the car in there on stilts or whatever, but they did. Anything else? Stormfront as an episode offended me a little bit. Just because I can be very pedantic with the you need to do this story right type opinions, and they didn't do it right at all in my opinion, so I got upset, but I've learned to enjoy it for what it is. My favorite episode is the first one that ever aired in order, and it has something to do with a changeling or what we would call a cuckoo, a cuckoo type situation where this is a child that's not human, but he's being raised by human parents. I can't really go into explaining it too much, but there's another parallel in that storyline, because there's something in the show called the Skinwalker, except in the show it's literally somebody that steals your skin and wears it and walks around in your skin in order to do what it does to get information or whatever it's got to do. But that is not what a skinwalker is in the books. But if you're familiar with Native American legend at all, and it's actually pretty damn hard to get wind of this legend, because even the Native Americans, they don't talk about it with outsiders because they believe people talking about it makes it stronger, and they're fucking living nightmares in terms of demonic beings. But they're not the same thing. They're shapeshifters, but they're not that type of thing. So there are a lot of parallels, but there's a lot of bullshit nothing. They get rid of the Merlin entirely, and the head of the White Council, and they just call it the High Council in the series, is Ancient Mai. Ancient Mai is a character in the books, and she is on the senior council of the White Council. But she's just very, very different. For one thing, she's not actually ancient. Or actually, she probably is actually ancient, but I get the idea she wasn't even supposed to be just flat out human in the series. There were some really weird things that went on, like special effects, like glowing eyes and warping faces, and 2 actresses played her in 4 different episodes. So that was a little confusing. So it's like, wait, that's not how Wizard works. It's just not how it works. All right. For whoever's left, that one person that's left, are you ready to hear the spoiler that's been pissing me off, and I've been not ranting about it because now I've been talking about Dresden for so long that I feel absolutely chill and cool, and I'm not even sure I have to rant anymore. I won't full on spoiler rant, which I was going to, and I probably would have if there were more people here to like soundboard with, but that's fine. You guys know me, I just work better when I have something to bounce off of. It's one of my flaws as a streamer. It's nobody's fault but my own. But one of my favorite characters died in the last book that came out. And through all the first third of the book, they kept having all these close calls, and people do die. Characters I've heard of do die because the whole last book is basically, it's called Battleground. It's basically a huge fucking war taking place in all of Chicago. Like thousands of people die in this book. But the ones with names, the ones with history with the reader, only a few die. Almost none of them have any emotional impact except for this one specific character. And I had been saying up until the point where that character died, I was kind of in my head, Jim, if you're gonna kill somebody, you gotta take the plot armor off of some of these slightly more important people, because I don't know who that character that just died really is. He's been mentioned in 2 books, and Harry has directly spoken to him in one of them, in one scene. That is not enough history for me to give a shit about the fact that he just died. I don't even remember who this other character that just died is, or this other character that just died. I mean, I have a vague memory of their name being dropped somewhere, but I have no emotional reference to them, except for the fact that Harry cares. So either I read the book where they were mentioned too long ago to remember, which would probably be the case of some other Dresden fans, or you didn't put enough emotion behind them for me to give a shit. You need to take the plot armor off of somebody, and you need to actually kill them. And boy, howdy, did he ever! I almost threw my audiobook across the room. I was like, Jim, I said take off somebody's plot armor. I didn't say take it off of that character. I got pissed. I'm still pissed. But I'm on my 3rd listen through of that specific book, because it is such a fast-paced book and so much does happen that I kept missing things. I kept rewinding it and listening to it, and rewinding it and listening to it, and rewinding it and listening to it, And I'm still missing things. So I keep listening to it before I return it to the library for the blind, so I know everything that happens. I'm like, okay, this character got really fucked up but didn't die. Okay, that character didn't get fucked up. He's actually dead. I'm trying to keep it all straight in my head because I can name 3 people that died. And I can guarantee more people that were named died than that. But the one good thing that came out of that major character's death, other than the fact that Jim Butcher actually had balls and went there, was the scene that came afterwards. Because this character is probably the most important character to most readers, other than Harry Dresden himself. Now, many people, if you're watching this, you already know who it is because you read the book, or you know because you know who that other character is. For those of you who don't, I'm wording it this way because somebody else could be way more important to you. But this person dies, and the first time I heard it, I was numb because I had just woken up. Like, I literally just opened my eyes, reached over, and slammed the play button on my audiobook so I could just lay there in bed and listen for a little bit. So I wasn't awake enough to absorb the death. But by the time my brain went, whoa, wait, hang on, back the fuck up for a second. Somebody just died and it's this person, and oh my, that cannot be fucking true. The next segment happened, and it was Harry fully reacting to that death, and he lost his ever-loving fucking mind. And it is frightening. Like, the death was kind of an accident, and Harry goes off after the person that caused it, like forget you. I'm a good person that doesn't believe in killing people, but I'm gonna kill this thing. Like, he practically dehumanizes the person he goes after. He's beating his friends up that try and intervene. I mean, it gets dark and it gets deep and is so hard and painful. I'm almost crying thinking about it right now. But that scene is what saves the fact that this happened a minute ago. It saves me from hating what happened a minute ago. I still hate what happened. I can't imagine a Dresden book without this character in it. I just can't. But letting Harry have the same reaction that I sure as hell would have had, and feeling vindicated, but also being terrified that Harry is taking that path, because you do not want to see him go down that road. This guy is already fighting to not be a monster and fighting for his own soul because of events that have taken throughout the series. He's trying to retain his humanity, and this has snapped his humanity off like a twig for a little while. What just happened doesn't become as important as what is happening, and it's probably the most brilliant scene in any Jim Butcher book I've ever read. So I'm going to say right now, James Marsders, the way you read that, and Jim Butcher, the way you wrote that, thank you. But Jim Butcher, I still fucking hate your guts for doing that to me right now. I know people who haven't caught up to me yet. They're going to stop reading the series. I'm sure of it. They will stop reading the series when they read this. And I don't blame them. I will read the next book, or I will start the next book. If it doesn't feel worthy, I'm out. This could be the death of the Dresden Files for fans. For me, I'm clinging on by my almost non-existent nails. And I needed to talk about this. I needed to share it because I've been telling people about it. Sometimes, like I'm talking about with you, without spilling every single bean, although it's pretty fucking obvious what I'm talking about if you've read the books. Not even that one, but just read the books in general. But, I'm losing track of what I'm saying again. I hate that. Probably because I'm getting so emotional. Yeah, that was actually going to be my point. My husband's a Dresden Files fan. He hasn't caught up to this book yet, and I called him crying, trying not to tell him what was happening because I didn't want to spoil it for him, but at the same time, like, he took off the fucking plot armor, and I don't know how to feel, and I'm pissed, and I'm sad, and I feel like a lot of people felt when Sherlock fucking, when Arthur Conan Doyle killed Sherlock, you know, like, I want to put black curtains up in my, he's like, it's just a character, and I'm like, it's a character that I've been with for 8 years, because I haven't been reading the books for the 20 years they've been out, but I've been reading the books for 8 years. Sometimes the whole series 3 times within a year, because I do audio, so I've got feelings, people. I've got very, very strong feelings. And it makes me really scared. Really, really scared of what's coming. Because there's a big black hole in this world now. And I can't imagine the world without that person. Kind of like if it was a real person that died. Not to the same extent. I can separate fiction from reality. But when I'm thinking about that world and I'm in that world, it's the same. But I also really want to see where it goes for me. There are characters that are still alive that I do want to see again. There are characters I want to see be brought to the foreground. There are relationships I want to see get better or form or change. There are villains I need to see defeated that haven't been defeated yet. And it's a hell of a confusing place to be. So, again, thank you, Jim Butcher, and fuck you. So that's kind of all I really can say. I've been trying really hard not to spoil things. I was going to spoil the fuck out of things. Last minute, I kind of decided to hold back because this is definitely a world worth discovering on your own. plot points, character relationships, character growth, character motivations. They're worth discovering on your own. I suppose I'll close this off by looking the books up real quick in order and just try to list my favorites, like list them in order to rank them. But I do have to have the book list sitting in front of me, so just give me a second to bring that up. Like I said, I don't actually own them. I have like 2 or maybe 3 in paperback volume, and then I have 1 audiobook. So wait, I don't know how to do that. I didn't have to go in there, but oh well. Do that. Okay, the Dresden Files books in order of release. Okay, that book isn't even the first one that came out, so what are you doing? All right. I can't see the chat room at all now, so if anybody's going to talk to me, I apologize. I'll look when I'm done with this. Okay, so there are 17 main books. And if I was going to pick my 17th book, I'll just say right now it would probably be it would probably be White Knight, because I can't even remember which one that is off the top of my head. There are 2 books that kind of have very similar arcs. Like the actual stories are very different, but they end in the same place in a lot of ways. So it's hard to be like, remember those. But it'd probably be White Knight would be my number 17. Then Summer Night, White Knight, Summer Night probably be at the bottom. Then Full Moon, Stormfront, Grave Peril, Proven Guilty, Death Masks. And these are not in order, obviously. These are my personal favorite order. Battleground, Ghost Story, Peace Talks, Cold Days, Skin Game, Turncoat, and Changes. That would probably be the order I would put them in. That's just my personal preference. I can't really go into the whole plot thing yet again. So that's my very long-winded, unnecessary talk about the Dresden Files. I know I said I was going to go full bore with spoilers, but I really didn't get anybody talking too much in the chat room, and I do talk better when I have somebody to talk against. So that's why, one of the reasons I decided not to go full bore spoilers, because otherwise I'd be sitting here desperately trying to describe it to empty air, and that wouldn't work out well for anybody. So thank you for coming to my stream. Thank you for watching this video later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will let you know on my Facebook page, LeadingBlind, of course, when my next stream will be. I have reached 40 subscribers, so if anybody wants me to do a Q&A at some point, it probably won't be for the 40 subscribers. Hopefully my channel will grow at least a little bit. Maybe I'll get to 100 this year. Who knows? Not going to count on it, but that's okay. Who knows? Maybe I'll do it for 50 or 60 subscribers if I can get to that. All right, guys. Thank you for having a good night with me. Bye-bye.